Hi friends, it is Amanda with Metal Modern Design coming to you live today on the Essential Stencil page. If you guys don't know who I am, my name is Amanda Dillon. I'm the proprietor of Metal Modern Design. I'm a coastal crafter in Navarre, Florida. I'm one of the brand ambassadors for Essential Stencil. I come live every Monday for them doing stencil inspirations, stenciling tips, all types of different projects. So we're going to be working on a porch board today, which is why I'm over where I usually pour resin. You'll probably see some resin drips and whatnot over here, but it was a big enough table to hold the piece. I'm going to be stenciling or staining up this board. This is just a 4-foot board, and we're going to be using the Hello Spring. I'm just going to use the word spring. Now, let me tell you about spring. I've got it pinned for you guys because there's only like 45 of these left. So if you want this stencil, I would grab it because I doubt that they will be bringing it back after it sells out, because we're getting kind of late in the season. It's just the beginning of spring. We just turned to spring. But if this is one you want, you'll have to grab that. Everything that I create, for the most part, I would say 95% of the things that I create, I sell. So I want to make sure that whatever I create is something that I can sell here locally. So we're going to be using, and you can maybe see some of this mess, maybe you can't, thank God, some of my various wood stain colors. And we're going to create a pretty blended design using some stains, and then we'll add our stencils on next. So let me grab some glue. I've just got a little bit of this white that you guys know. I keep saying I'm going to throw it away because it's almost completely empty. I'm just going to use that for a little bit of blending. I've got my spritzer of water, which I will be using for some blending. This pretty turquoise color, which is Viridian Green, I believe. Yep, Viridian Green. This is a semi-transparent, but you can get the solid, it's fine. I'm going to be using navy blue, and this is also a semi-transparent, but you can also get the solid. Okay, so we've got a little bit of white stain. I'm going to be using all used stain sponges today. Get these at Harbor Freight. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to mist up my board a little bit. We've just got a fine mist of water. Okay, so I'm going to start. This is going to be the top of our board. I'm just going to add a little white up here. This is not going to end up white. Let me just say that much. I'm just kind of putting the white down almost as a base because I want it to blend, and I don't necessarily want my colors to be exactly the colors they are out of the can. And I probably won't do the whole thing white because it's not going to be necessary. But I want this area up here to be a little lighter, and so when I add the next colors, this will just help that blend a bit. I'll just go ahead and come over the edges. I will go back and do the back side of this board. Okay, so we've just got a little white down. It's about halfway down. That's about fine. It's a nice navy blue. We're using this Viridian Green, which is just a lovely turquoise. And then we'll be using our Midtone Blue, which is Bay Blue. And so let's just start with some Bay Blue. You can see I've used it before. I'm just gonna dip in. If you have the ability to pull this off into a different container so you don't cross-contaminate your whole can, that's ideal. So I'm just gonna go right over this white right now, because this is going to be kind of my top color. You can almost see an ombre starting now. We'll come back to that. We'll introduce more white in just a bit. Just going to keep adding it because this is going to be kind of our base color. And now that I think about it, because my next two colors are semi-transparent, I think I will go ahead and add white all the way down, because all that's going to do is it's going to give kind of a solid base for my colors to lay on top of. And let's just grab some white. Spritz the board again a little bit. And this is just going to kind of, even when you're stenciling, if you're using a vibrant color, particularly if you're using a yellow or a red, if you go ahead and put down a coat of white or even gray, you're not going to have to use as many coats. Your color's going to be more vibrant. And that's just the same kind of concept I'm doing here. over this sweater. Okay, so this looks like a hot mess so far, right? Not really like something you would want to create, but it's going to come together. So from here, I'm gonna use this same sponge. I'm just gonna kind of flip it around a little bit. I'm gonna grab, I think I'll go straight into the turquoise. And we're just going to, and you can see it's a little bit thinner. It doesn't have the same weight because it is a semi-transparent versus a solid. I'd probably just go with the solid. Layering it on top of that white just makes it a little more, less translucent, less transparent. And you can kind of see my transition point here. We're actually going to come up higher. Blend that right there. Both sides of the color just kind of back and forth. Would help if we had a bit of a moist edge. I do need that other sponge that fell down. Let me grab it. Of course, I'm around an 8-foot long table. So now I'm just going to dip in and use some of this navy blue. And this isn't going to be nearly as navy as it would have been had I not put down the white coat, but that's okay. We don't need it to be ultra dark. So I'm using blues. Like I could have used some pinks and yellows and oranges, some pretty corals, and done that for our spring sign. Or I could have used purples. But since I wanted to make this coastal, that's why I chose to use some blues. Right now, it's just kind of a hot mess right there in our transition. And that's okay, because we're not done with that. I'm gonna grab out some more turquoise. Just back and forth. It's just some back and forth. Moisture, a wet edge is important. Okay, I think that's pretty good. What do you guys think? Am I done with it? A little bit of sanding. Just from a fine sanding sponge. Just knocking down any area that's high. Now all we're gonna do is, I think we will start with our spring stencil instead of a 5-foot or 6-foot sign, which is what this stencil is designed for. I'm not gonna be able to fit in hello and all of the niceties that are part of this stencil, but I am gonna use the part that says spring. So I'm gonna back the S all the way up. We will position it, I'll tape it, we'll stencil it, and then we'll add our coastal embellishments. And the beauty of all of Essential Stencil's porch sign designs is that they're already spaced to fit perfectly. So to use this outside, I did see a question. To use this outside, I just hit it with some spray polyacrylic. That's what I would do. You don't have to tape it as much as I'm about to tape it. Where this is kind of falling off because I'm not using the hello, I'll just have to hold that a little bit so that it doesn't create an awkward lift. I'm just going to be using a white acrylic. It's just a thicker bodied acrylic. I think I'm just going to start with the Essential Stencil brush, and if I need the bigger brush, then I'll switch over. And I'm just going to come up, and I'm just going to start up here using a swirling motion, which is how I do it on this. So I'm just going to stick with my little tight swirling motion here. So again, let me just mention, this is the spring stencil that is typically for a 5 or 6 foot porch sign, but I'm using it for a 4 foot. It is in short stock, and you can use my code METTLE, METTLE, to save yourself 10%. But I can see where I'm kind of coming over my little floral right there, so I'll either have to touch that up or I'll have to lay another stencil over top and stencil that using the light swirling motion. And so now I'm down to this eye where I kind of wanted to overlap it. So I'm going to pull this bottom one out from under the top one. So I can, and I'm just going to, I just ripped that tape, that's fine. I'm just going to hinge it back a little. Hold my arm there. Can you see? You can't see what I'm doing. So let me just pop my tape there. I'm just going to stencil this little loop-de-doo here. I'm going to go ahead and hit my second coat on this R and this P. Okay, get it down here a little bit more. We're going to hinge this one back. And you can see where my little flowers, where I hit that. That's okay, we'll fix that with no problem. I'm just gonna pull this stencil up, that S in place, because I'm gonna need to go back and add a little more paint to it. Pull that one out of the way, and hinge my eye back down. And it should match up pretty good right there. You need to use a light swirling motion, lift and offload paint. When I lift new paint, I always try to go to the whitest part of the stencil first, and then I branch out from there. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the butterflies and the florals are gorgeous, and if you're not in a coastal area, or if you just want to use the design as is, that's completely fine. I'm just doing something a little different that I think will sell just a tiny bit better for me down here in Florida. And you can kind of see our tiny little smudges where I didn't tape out those florals. So I will either add something there, I'll come back in with our stain and we'll hit that, or I can use a wipe and pull that up. But I'll show you some ways to troubleshoot that, because I'll probably have it in a couple areas because I didn't tape all the florals. So we've kind of got the base coat on all of our letters down. I'm going to grab some more white paint. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to hit our S again. So he's looking a little scraggly. I'm going to make sure when you pull it, you kind of pull it straight up so it doesn't have a chance to push around on your stencil. Now, you clean the stencils pretty easily just using a wet wipe is fine. So I'm just going to take our little stain sponge here, just using some of the stain that's on here. We've had a little color back. And it's a little bit different there, and that's okay. So let's pull out some of our pretty little coastal stencils. Now, because this is so tight, there's not many places this larger turtle design would probably work all that well. I could maybe bring them in here, but it might not be enough of them to really make sense, but we've got these other lovely turtles. We could add some turtles. I'm not gonna have the crab. We've got some corals. Oh, and then we've got the fish. I think the fish would be fantastic. We'll just start adding in some coastal elements. And we're gonna use some different colored paints instead of just the white. And these are just some Master's Touch paints that I got at Hobby Lobby. This one's pale blue. This one is ocean green. Add just a touch of this deeper green in case I need to blend it. This is probably your best bet if you have any little spots to just cover it with something. Just trying to blend out the other spots, kind of a pain. But this is easy. So then we've just got a little turtle. I'll lift that up in a minute so you can see. I'm gonna add this one here. Just grab a little paint. I think I'll use about the same color, but I'm gonna add a little of this ocean green just to change it up just a little. Just using a light swirling motion here. I can even dip in over here and grab a little of that white stain on my brush, just to blend out a little bit lighter color. And then create a little bit of an ombre on our turtle here, kind of in the center. Maybe on the tops. And so you can kind of see, I'll lift it up and make sure you can see really well. So I've got a couple of turtles here. Let's add, I want another turtle. This one's gonna be a lighter one. Let's come in. I've got another turtle set, and so what I'm gonna do is you can flip it over. All you gotta do is wipe down your stencil. I've just got a second one of the same stencil, so I'm just gonna use it the opposite direction. That would probably work, but I am gonna lighten it up a bit just by grabbing a little bit of that. Ooh, that was a way more than a little bit. I can offload it. Grabbing a little bit of that white stain, coming back in and lightening that up. So we may end up just doing a lot of turtles. We can use the crab. The crab's a little large. Let's see where I want it. If I had an orange or a rust nearby, I could ombre him out and give him some little claws that were a different color. Instead, I'm just going to continue to add some different colors to him just to make him look a little more real. There we go. Now we've just got a little bit of an ombre crab. I'm just going to put some of these little sea plants from this little stencil kind of down here. Had a little too much paint on my brush, but that should be okay because we're just not using much pressure. We're just using kind of a light motion. And let's see, back him off almost. Gonna do it again, only using part of it. There's a little bit of a 3D effect going on down there because I moved it a little, but that's okay. I'm positioning him over here because I'm trying to cover that one little teeny tiny spot that's got a little tiny bit of white paint. And when I say tiny, I mean it was tiny. But if it bugs you, it bugs you. We like what we like, right? Add another little crab coming in kind of this way. Do you guys do this? Do you overwork things sometimes? I do it. I'm admitting it. Here's the little octopus. I wonder if I could, so I'm just gonna work on that because I don't want to add too many things and make it awkward. Add some jellyfish tentacles over here. Lost my brush. I'm gonna go with this lighter aqua color here. Oh, I just got it in the blue. That's not what I wanted. This is just mixing and matching a few different sets. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Okay, let me hold it up. We're gonna call it. It looks like it's underwater a little bit. We've got the spring written on it, and we've just used some of the coastal elements to bring in the rest of our design. And again, the Hello Spring is in short stock, so if you want that, you gotta grab it. I hope you guys learned something today. If you don't follow me over at Metal Modern Design, I invite you to do so. I hope that you got a few new technique tips, and I will see you next Monday. Bye now, friends. Be safe.